Hello, I'm Dr. Sam Hancock of the Emerald Planet and Emerald Planet TV. We come to you on a week-to-week basis from Washington, D.C. in the United States as we look around the globe in 144 different nations, looking for those 1,000 best practices, the technology, services, and products that are making a difference as we move through the 21st century. And as we have a planet of 9 billion people by 2038 and possibly 12 to 13 billion by the end of this century, how are we going to be able to take care of all these people on planet Earth? And that's what Emerald Planet's all about. We come to you looking at the solutions, the best practices from around the globe as we create the Emerald Planet. Hello, welcome to the Emerald Planet. We're making a difference as we move through the 21st century. And seeing the long-term impacts of climate change. We're glad to have you. Thank you for being with us. As we're looking around the globe, one of the things that's becoming quite obvious is that more and more people are moving to organics as far as their food is concerned. They don't want the heavy chemicals, the chemical fertilizers, insecticides, pesticides. They want as pure food as possible. So J.M. McFall, she is the president of the Organic Living, and it's all about the organics. Jay, tell us about your logo and what does it mean?
Well, that means that we're holding the earth in our hands and we're trying to save it. And there's a tree growing out of the top, which is a Moringa tree, which is the tree for life.
That's absolutely fantastic. Now, we're going all the way back to 1936. And my understanding from your research, things really haven't improved that much from this quote that we have in front of us. But as far as the diet deficiencies and remediation as far as depleting soils, why is that really a problem as far as the food that we're eating in the 21st century?
Well, because minerals are elements essential for life, and it's what gives food its flavor. So if we don't have minerals in our body, and we need 90 minerals in our body to be healthy, then we're not as healthy as we should be, and we can get sick easier.
Now, the whole thing about the land, of course, the United States, everybody keeps saying we're a young country, but we're over 400 years old, going all the way back to the founding of Jamestown. And of course, there were, millions of people on the continent before the Europeans came out of England and other places. But a lot of that soil has been depleted of its vitamins and its minerals. So why is that directly related to the deficiency of the vitamins and minerals in the food that we currently are eating?
Well, because lacking vitamins, the body can make use of minerals, but lacking minerals, vitamins are useless.
So we need both. And I think that's what we're saying right here is that lacking the vitamins, but we really need to have the minerals. And so looking at the soil, why is it very important that we start taking care of the soil?
Well, because the soil doesn't have the nutrients. We need to create healthy soil, and the soil needs to have life in it with microorganisms and funguses and bacteria and things in order to be healthy for the plants.
Mm-hmm. Now, the whole thing about it is that we don't really realize as we're walking over the ground or in our office building or out on the farm or the ranch, there's billions of these microorganisms actually in the soil itself. So looking at the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, as far as having proper food, we're really running into the increased costs as far as health is concerned, because we're really not eating that healthy food. Is that what we're talking about, Jay?
That's it. And it has to do with the foods that we are eating. If it's processed, we know it's full of toxins and it's lacking the minerals.
You know, it's actually more of chemicals than it is the nutrients that we really need. Now, what is this as far as the Dirty Dozen list? This is something you and I have been talking about for years. And the Environmental Working Group has been highlighting this now for just about a decade. Why do we have this list called the Dirty Dozen?
Because those are the foods that have the most herbicides and pesticides in them. And there's usually 36 to 67 different ones in them. And so if we're putting all those toxins into our body, that's not making us healthy.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, and this is something we really need to be aware of. And I know that every year this list is being adjusted. So this is really just a sample listing compilation over the about the last decade. But then you have the clean 15. I like the rhyme of that. Why do we have a clean 15, but we have a dirty dozen? I mean, these foods are probably getting similar kinds of chemicals as well as a dirty dozen.
Yeah, but they don't have as many. And some of them, like corn and papayas and a couple others, are actually genetically modified. So we want to be careful of what we eat. But this list has less toxins in it. So if you can't afford organic, it's better to eat this list.
Okay, so this is really what this list is all about, is that we want to look at the clean 15, and then but at the same time look at having organics within the refrigerator and within our kitchens. Is that what you're saying, Jay?
Yes.
Okay. Now, this is a different listing, and I just wanted to show this again because this comes out on an annualized basis. It does change from year to year. Some organizations say that this really doesn't exist. Others are animate that we need to be more concerned about the chemicals going in our body so that we actually do stay healthy. But the autoimmune and neurological diseases, this seems to be something that's quite real then, that's actually impacting our health. Is that what you're finding, Jay?
Yes, very much so.
And looking at these are Crohn's disease and diabetes and all that. So thyroids, these are really very dangerous to all human beings and actually can shorten the life. But I like this one that you shared this with us. Give a man a fish, he eats for a day. Teach a man to garden, and the whole neighborhood gets tomatoes.
Yeah.
That's really cute. What does that really mean about? Because we're getting into about teaching people how to garden. What is it about this that really is the truth?
Well, we used to live on farms and we grew all our own food and it was all organic, but it's different now. People have moved into the cities and they're so far away from the farm, they don't know how to garden, they don't know how to cook, they don't know how to actually be healthy anymore.
And that goes back to the processed foods that you were talking about a little earlier, and that's something we have to do. But the thing about the work that you're doing, and this is what really has captured my attention, is that you're really teaching people how to grow their own food, not just about what foods to buy, whether it's on the Dirty Dozen or the Clean 15, but actually how to start growing your own food. What do you go over in these seminars that we are witnessing right now?
Well, the main thing is that it's this the way we prepare the soil is the most important thing that there is because, well, specifically here in Florida, we live on a sand dune. Sand doesn't hold moisture or nutrients, so we have to really create soil. But even in other states, we still need to make sure that the nutrients to have healthy plants is in the soil.
Mhm, mhm. Now, looking at this is the now and also the future generations. Why is it so important that you start working with the youth, literally in kindergarten and elementary school? I mean, what can they learn that's going to help not only them, but also the elders that are in their households when they go from school back home?
Well, it's real interesting with this because a lot of these kids don't know how to, really make good meals and eat healthy. And I had one couple who they came to me, and their little girl was like, oh my gosh, we have to grow this, we have to grow this, we have to grow this. And that was very exciting, because then the parents went like, oh, wow, we really should do this.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So they can influence their parents.
Yeah. Well, and that's the whole thing about 4-H. I've brought that up a number of times in the past. Head, heart, hands, and health. And it's about the whole person. And so that's what you're actually teaching these children, is that, we have to take care of the whole person, and that starts with our tummy. But looking at the beauty of nature and bringing the balance between the various plants, how do you do that, where you start to calm the spirit, as we see with your fountain here? But why this mixture of plants?
Well, this has plants that clean the air, the ones on the left, and this has water, and that helps birds and butterflies and other things. And this has got some herbs in there and some flowers, and you need flowers in your gardens to pollinate so that you get fruits and vegetables.
Yeah, this is something that you've been very emphatic with me, is that having these flowers really are very important, because it brings in the pollinators.
Yes.
But the fact that you can do this in such a beautiful way, how does this impact the people that visit your home for these seminars, that they in turn feel like, actually, this is something I probably can do?
Yes, exactly. They come in and they see the gardens, and they sit down and they relax, and it's very calming. And when I teach them how to prepare the soil, they go, well, this isn't that hard. I can do this. And they can start eating good, healthy food again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and why is it so important that people actually, even in the city, people keep saying we don't have enough space, but you could have something like this that it's in a flower box. So why is it important that we have the color? We have, in essence, kind of this little miniature carbon sump, if you will, around us at all times.
Well, the colors actually do affect our bodies. Like the blue is calming, the yellow is more energizing, and then the greens are very, very soothing as well.
Mhm. And I find this really interesting, is how you have all these different colors, and they all really have true meaning. And it's the same with food. The food we eat, the color of that food really makes a difference as far as our life is concerned. So, looking at these small plants, we would think this is insignificant. It's a huge world out here. And we're going to go out on this question, Jay. Why do we need to surround ourselves with living plants, colors that are vibrant, calming at the same time, but also help us to live a better life? How does that happen?
Well, when you grow your own food and you prepare the soil the way I recommend you to do it, then you're getting superfoods that you're eating. And the purple means it's extra special good for your heart and your blood pressure.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And this color?
Energy.
Oh, okay. All right. And this is some of the neighbors that come over to be with you. This is J.M. McFall. She's the president and master gardener of Organic Living. And we're talking about eating your way to a healthy future. And this is something that's very important, that we actually do food as medicine, which comes to us from the ancients, as we look around the globe to create the Emerald Planet.
Yes.
Organic living. This is one of the mantras that's happening as we move through the 21st century. People want to get away from the harsh chemical fertilizers, the insecticides, the pesticides, and move more and more to organic fruits, vegetables, and herbs. And Jaya Mafal, she is the president and master gardener for Organic Living. And we're going to be talking about vertical gardening. Now, taking organic living Jay, and then talk about vertical gardening. What does this vertical gardening really mean?
Well, it basically means that you can grow up as opposed to just down and out. And so we do raised beds, we have tower gardens, which we'll be showing you soon. And it's just a really good way to grow, especially when we're here in Florida where there's no really good dirt. It's all sand. So this allows us to create wonderful soil and have very healthy plants.
Now, looking at the vertical gardening, this is something that's quite important because in many of our urban communities, over 300 legacy cities, many of these yards have been, carbon sumps collecting the hydrocarbons for decades, even going back into the 1800s, some into earlier than that, as far as the coal-fired heating systems. So, why is it so important for good, pure food that people, even in the urban areas, move towards what you call these grow centers and these raised grow beds?
Well, the nice thing about it is when we are growing our own food, we can decide what's going to be in the soil and what's not going to be in the soil so that we can eat nutrient dense food, which actually gives us energy, helps us prevent disease, and even reverse disease.
Now, looking at this raised bed, you have this couple that are working on this, a number of different plants. Why do you want different plants in the raised beds themselves?
Well, they all, like you had mentioned earlier, they all have their own things that they give to us. Like they say, eat a rainbow of food.
Mm-hmm.
And that means every food that has different colors has different frequencies and nutrients for our bodies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and also too, looking at this, if you look at the depth of this raised bed, there's potential for much nutrients actually in there. So a number of people are actually making these out of the leaves and other mulch. Why is it important to embed in these mulch as well as having good nutrient dense soil?
Well, we don't want to mix the mulch into the soil because that will pull out the nitrogen that the plants need. But if you put it on top, it'll actually disintegrate and become soil over time.
Mm-hmm. Now, this is a very large one of these raised bed centers that you have here. So these can actually be very small, set right on the back stoop, or they can be huge like this one. I think you said this was somewhere around 16 feet long.
Yes,
And when you have something this size, it really gives you a lot of latitude of what you can grow.
yes. I put a lot of different kinds of plants in there, everything from lettuces to eggplants to tomatoes to cucumbers to just about anything you could imagine.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And so, looking at this, there's a mix of plants in here. And
Mm-hmm.
again, going to the mix, does this actually help in the growing cycle? Is this for the pollinators? Or this is just a fact of this is what you prefer to eat and have on your own table? Or is it all three?
It's all three. These are things that my customer actually wanted to eat every day. And there's also, you don't see them farther down, there's some flowers for the pollinators. So it's a combination.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and this is something we have to really realize. Let's leave this up for just a minute. What are pollinators, Jay?
Well, the bees and the butterflies, they come in to get the nectar and they take the pollen from the flowers and then they go to other flowers and that actually pollinates the second plant so that they can have fruit.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And
Now, looking at these towers, as you call them, and we'll see different sizes of these and different uses. But it's really an incredible mix of plants in this one grow tower. Why such a mixture?
Well, because we need to eat lots of different kinds for flavors and for nutrients.
Now, looking at this tower, this is going to be much more shallow than the grow bed that we saw before. So, how do you need to treat this differently than the grow bed, which has great depth to it, and the root structure can go way down to find its nutrients?
Well, we're going to put the nutrients in it, and it'll require more watering because it can dry out faster. But it's a very, very good thing for especially herbs because they don't take up as much time and or space. And the other thing is that, like in the big tower garden or the big raised beds, you can grow tomatoes, which have huge roots, and other things that have deeper roots. And these are good for things that have shorter roots.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Now, this is looking at a similar kind of tower here. We have one that's really starting as far as the plants are concerned, the other one where the plants are much more mature. So, how long does it take for plants to grow in some of these towers? And how often can the people who are actually planting this begin to harvest the fruit of their labor, so to speak, between having these high grow towers?
Well, the plants are going to start growing right away because we put very nutrient dense stuff in the plant, in the soil, and they will start growing. And I always tell my customers don't cut more than 1/3 of the plant off or you'll kill it.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, as they get bigger, you take off the outside leaves and leave the middle growing, and they'll keep growing.
Mm-hmm. You know, and if you're in a place like Florida, the warmer climes, these can grow most of the year. But you know, if you're in the northern climate, you could actually can't you take these inside if you have severe weather conditions in the wintertime?
Yes, yes. And a lot of people who don't have much space in their yard, they can actually put these on their roofs. It's
Mm.
amazing the roof gardening that's going on.
Hmm. Yeah, this is something that's very popular in Washington, D.C. And my understanding is we have the most per capita green roofs in the United States. Now, looking at this, this is a fantastic photograph of this young lady with her grow tower. And why is her smile so big? What's here that she's so excited about? And this really is something that people, if they have children or grandchildren or nieces, nephews, they could actually start growing their own vegetables and incorporate it in, breakfast, lunch, or dinner, can't they?
Yes, they can. And she was so happy because she had never grown any plants before. And she put this together and it started growing. And she just felt this wonderfulness because she created that,
Yeah.
and it was thriving and she just loved it. And kids who grow their own food eat a lot more fruits and vegetables than kids who don't.
Now that's an interesting correlation. Now, looking at this what I call grow pottery, why is this so important?
Well, a lot of times you can't grow into the soil or you don't, or you have more concrete around or something like that. So if you grow in pottery, then you can still grow a lot of stuff and it's portable too if you move. So it's very good to be able to move things around as well.
Mm-hmm. And also, you can move around for the pollinators. You can move it around for just the changing of the seasons and the
Yes.
colors that you have, or you can put it in again if you're getting severe weather. Of course, you may have hurricanes. You want to move them inside. If you're in the north, maybe the wintertime, you want to move it inside. I thought this was intriguing to have the size and scale of this pottery and the mix again that you have. Talk about this mix and why this mix is so important in order to enhance what you're trying to do, growing your own fresh fruit, vegetables, but also flowers?
Well, the flowers are beautiful and they make you feel happier. A lot of them are edible. And the other plants, there's okra in there, and there's tomatoes, and there's various different kinds of herbs. And what I usually do is I have a lot of herbs, and I go through the garden on a daily basis picking herbs so I could have fresh herbal tea for breakfast.
Mm-hmm. It sounds absolutely delicious. But I think this is a beautiful way for decorating the yards. What is
Yes.
it about the eye appeal of this that many of the people that come for your educational classes really, in essence, fall in love with and would like to have this enhanced around their own homes?
Yeah, they do. I didn't have enough of those to sell any of them, and everybody was always going, "I want these, I want these." And I'm going like, "No, they're mine." But you can put them in different kinds of colors, and you can paint them. You can do all kinds of things with it, but it's
Mhm.
just so people love to create and
Mhm.
make, and enjoy what they create.
Right. I think that's actually important. And we're going to go out on these couple of photographs here. Again, going back to an earlier question, but I'm going to keep asking it. Why is it so important to have the children involved at these ages, and what can they learn for the future? And you have about 40 seconds to answer the question.
Well, they learn to love the plants, they learn how to take care of the plants, and they now have skills for the rest of their life. And then they can teach those skills to their family, their future children, and just have wonderful lives eating fresh, nutrient dense food.
And I think that's really, and we're going to go out on this image here. I think it's very important that we look at the beauty of these gardens. So it's really so many different intangibles that you're bringing to the people when they learn how to grow their own fruits and vegetables and herbs, go out and be able to harvest and have it fresh. And I think the work that you're doing, Jay, is absolutely magnificent. This is Jay McFall, President, Master Gardener of Organic Living. Thank you for being with us as we create the Emerald Planet. Talking about organic living and how we really take this forward is something that's very important as we do move through the 21st century. And as we move towards 2050, and there's about 9 billion people on planet Earth, yes, 9 billion, and they may be here by 2038. So we must get busy as far as taking whatever areas that we have, whether it's in urban, rural, or suburban, and start growing our own food. And so the whole thing about it with the having your way with health, food is our medicine, is with the herbs, vegetables, and other items that we need as far as flowers to provide beauty for our surroundings. So, Jay McFall, President, Master Gardener, Organic Living, looking at clipping your own herbs and picking your own vegetables and even having your own fruit. This is merely a dream for most people. How do we make this a more common reality for many people, Jay?
Well, the tower gardens are one good way, and really educating people on why it's important is probably the most important thing there is. Once they realize that they can get all the 90 minerals that they need for their body from the food they're eating because they've prepared the soil properly, makes a big difference.
And you said 90 minerals. And
Yes.
okay, I tell you, that's just absolutely incredible to think that we need that many. But we need that on a day to day basis?
Yes.
Okay, well, that was an emphatic answer there. Now, what we're going to be looking at here is some of the different plants that we can grow around the house. It could be a flower box in the window, it could be the back stoop. Could be even inside the house itself, and this becomes part of the decoration. So tell us about these brilliantly deep greens. Why are these so important for us?
Well, they actually have a lot of different vitamins and as well as minerals. And people eat salads almost every day for, a lot of reasons. And so it's really nice to be able to go out and pick your own fresh food and serve it to your family and your friends.
Yeah, that's okay. We're going to go into some of the specifics of different suggested plants. Again, growing these organically, so we remove the insecticides, the pesticides, and the harsh chemical fertilizers. Because many people say, well, you have to get rid of the insects and the mold and other things. Actually, plants, like human beings, have their own antibodies to protect themselves. So, Brussels sprouts, why so important?
Brussels sprouts are one of the most nutrient dense healing plants that there are. And what's really interesting is that when you have a healthy leaf, you will not get bugs or disease because a healthy leaf actually the it's made out of um, carbohydrates, and so bugs don't want it. But an unhealthy leaf turns into a simple sugar and has a fragrance that says, "Come eat me, I'm sweet," so you get bugs.
Oh, that's really good to know. Going on, romaine lettuce.
Yeah, this is just another really favorite one for a lot of people, and I've had them live quite a long time before. And like I said, you just keep picking off the outside leaves, let the inside leaves stay, and they keep growing. And it's just marvelous to taste those.
Yeah. Well, and this is absolutely a beautiful plant too. It's just, I
Yes.
mean, this is a work of art in itself. Beets. I'm not really fond of beets, but I know that beets are really important for you. But not only the beet itself that grows under the soil, but the stems and the leaves above the soil. Why is this really a complete meal in itself?
Well, because it does have a lot of nutrients in it. It's got a lot of flavor, and you just get so much from it. And it's interesting because you can cut the tops back and eat those, and then the bottom will keep growing for a while, and then you can pull that one out and eat that too.
Hmm. Or you can, harvest all at the same time and have it that way. Many people think of a vegetable as only being a potato. And of course, we know that a potato is just one of many vegetables. But it's a beautiful plant in its own right.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't know too many people who don't like potatoes. And sometimes people go, "Well, I was growing potatoes, but nothing came up." I goes, "They grow under the ground." So
Hmm.
they didn't even know they had to dig them up. But there's lots of kinds of potatoes, including sweet potatoes,
Hmm.
and they're all good for you.
Yeah, and if you look at the Andean people in Latin America, I mean, they have so many different varieties of potatoes, different colors, and each color actually addresses a different area of the body and provides different nutrients. So that's something to think about is that we're almost stuck on having, what they call the white or Irish potato, but there's so many different varieties we have. Looking at these carrots, now the one in your right hand is huge. And we have this raised grow bed in the back. This is a compilation photograph, if you will, Jay. Tell us about having the raised grow bed in the back. We can see that it has many plants growing there. And you have the carrots in your hand. So, what's the correlation?
Well, this is a customer's yard, and her raised bed has all kinds of vegetables and herbs and stuff like that. And then I had another bed for the carrots, and this was not a planned picture. I would I pulled those up, and my girlfriend was working with me that day, and I said, "Ruth, look at these carrots!" And she grabbed her phone and took this picture. So that wasn't planned at all, but it's a great picture.
But there's several raised grow beds in the back, and we talked about these earlier. But let's go back into that. These are very attractive, look like a little gazebo. But why is it so important to have raised grow beds in particularly urban areas that have had open land for maybe 100, 125, 150 years? Why do we want to grow our own soil?
Well, because a lot of times there's been a lot of things happen to the soil. Sometimes people pollute the soil, excuse me, and like here we have sand, so we can't grow food in sand because it doesn't hold moisture and nutrients. So we can put them in there, and they get all the nutrients because they're following the directions from me on how to prepare the soil, and all the food is just phenomenally tasteful.
Mm-hmm. Now, I want to go back to what I was saying earlier about growing soil. What does that really mean? And how do you grow soil? We're going to go over that again in the next set of interviews. But why is growing your own soil so important?
Because again, you're controlling what's in it and what's not in it. And years ago I had created a raised bed, and I filled it up with all the leaves from the neighborhood, and I put I put a lot of other things in it, the kitchen scraps and the leftovers from other things. And so after about a year or two, I had the best black, beautiful soil with growing the best food I could even imagine. And it really was delicious.
Yeah. So what it is, there's actually what you're really saying is there's no more waste. That if you have even scraps or what have you, make sure they're very clean and no grease or oil in it. Is that you can actually start growing your own food. Now, I thought this was very attractive the way you presented this. This looks like a little bird's nest. What are we looking at in this work of art?
Well, I took this basket and I went out into my garden and I picked celery, which is up at the top, some kale, some herbs, basil, various different kinds of things, as well as the tomatoes. And I went in the house and made a salad. Mm-hmm. It was wonderful.
Well, you're eating well, but also if you look at Oriental culture and history, they feast through their eyes as well as through their mouth and tummies. And I think this is what you're doing right here in the United States. Now, getting to the flowers, you said we must have flowers, we must have the pollinators. So how does this all match up with the vegetables that we've been looking at? That we have these lovely flowers, but we really do need them.
We do. We really do. And it's funny because a lot of times people don't think about cucumbers and peppers as being a fruit, but they are. Mm-hmm. And so they have to be pollinated. So if you're growing them, you have to have some flowers as well. Anything that you pick off of a plant is a fruit.
That's very interesting. So we're really eating many more fruits than what we think about. The vibrancy of having this clay grow bed, very small, but yet very practical and very important. Why?
Well, it's got the color, it's going to feed the pollinators, and those are, I believe, edible flowers, so you could add those to your teas or your salads. And it's just a lot of fun to do this creating and have people come over and go, wow, that's really beautiful.
It really is. Now, looking at this is, of course, this is on the ground. You have a great mix as far as the plants that we have here, different types of colors. Why have this mix and match that we see here besides just the beauty of it?
Again, we've got the pollination, we've got some herbs in there so we can eat out of there. The bees and the butterflies will be attracted and they can get the nutrients that they need. And when people walk by, they go, wow, this is so pretty. I love it.
Yeah,
I love letting people taste the herbs and stuff because they have fragrances and flavors that you don't even expect.
Hmm. Yeah, and I think that's very important. Berries, is that all part of gardening as well?
Oh yeah, yeah. We have a lot of berries that we can grow. This is a blackberry, there's elderberries, there's mulberries,
Hmm.
there's
Hmm.
different kinds of cherries. There's all kinds of things that we can grow that a lot of times we don't even think about.
Hmm. Hmm. Now, this ginger, I just love ginger, and something that really spices up the food that I like to make. But we're going out on this. What are we seeing here? We got 20 seconds. Why is it important to have this mix and to nurture our minds and our bodies, but also feast the eyes?
Well, you've got broccoli there, we've got lettuces, we've got various herbs and the flowers. And they're all edible and it's beautiful and delicious. I had to take that picture because it was just so beautiful.
Yeah, it is very beautiful. It's something that we eat. Jay McFall, President, Master Gardener, Organic Living, as we create the Emerald Planet. Talking about organic living and organic plants, flowers, herbs, vegetables, and now we're talking about even fruit. Jay McFall, she's the president, master gardener of Organic Living, and we're going to be talking about actually planting your own orchard. So, looking at trees in the yards, both the flowering trees and the fruit trees, why is it so important to have trees in our yards, along our streets, in the cities, everywhere around us? What are we getting out of these trees, Jay, that we just wouldn't have otherwise?
Well, they do take carbon dioxide out of the air and release oxygen. I mean, that's pretty important.
Hmm.
And they produce fruit and they put roots into the ground and break up some of the soil. But I love trees and I hug trees and
Hmm.
I like to climb trees too. So trees are very important to us all.
Like a friend of mine said, it's never too late for a happy childhood. So you're not giving yours up anytime soon. It's obvious. But looking at planting trees, this is something that's very important. So the gentleman who's actually planning this and teaching his young assistant here, the young assistant will be seeing these for many years in the future. Maybe not so with adults. But why is it so important that we plant as many trees as we possibly can and have them spread out around our houses, the streets, all of the dense built surfaces that we can?
Well, there's a lot of different kinds of fruits that we could grow, and most of them we can't even get from the grocery store. And so that's one reason. Another one is that when you have these trees, if you can't find any food, if something happened, you would have everything that you would need to eat.
Hmm.
And knowing how to plant them is good because then they'll live a long, healthy life
Hmm.
and produce a lot of food for you.
Right. Now, this is something we've talked about a little bit before as far as growing soil. And I want to go back to that because I think this is a good photograph of that. We're planting a tree, of course, and that's going to live hopefully many decades into the future. But about growing soil now, why is that so important that we do it now and not just accept whatever dirt may be available to us? But the fact is, we want good, dense soil.
Yeah, well, we want to create good soil. We also want to add the minerals and the microorganisms into them. And you can see we're covering the top with mulch because that's going to keep the moisture in. It's going to keep any weeds out, and it's going to break down and create more soil. So it's a really good thing to know how to do this. And now that little boy can help grow trees for himself and his family and his friends forever.
Yeah, and what this gentleman is teaching him is, as the American Indians, many of the nations talk about the 7 generations, and so this is what we're really looking at here. Is that we're really preparing things for that seventh generation. But going to the large tree we have here, this is the upper canopy. We have the trees growing in the lower and mid canopy. What does a canopy actually mean when it comes to trees? And why is it very important to have various heights of trees, in essence, levels of trees, whether it's in our backyard or the city park?
Well, the big tall trees, they offer us, shade, and they'll drop a lot of leaves and create more good soil. And a lot of plants, I mean, we're down here in Florida where it's really, really hot. And a lot of plants can't live in the heat. So this is a tangerine tree, and that will grow very well in the shady area and not stress it out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then we have to realize that there's various levels as far as the trees are concerned. Like really, this is more of an urban forest, and that really is a thing because I've actually planted one, and it's amazing how the plants and the trees respond if we take good care of them. Now, this is really just a cute photograph I wanted to throw in because we have these big, tall, majestic trees, and you have the tangerine tree here. But we need all types of green plants, and many of these that will be evergreens, throughout the whole year. Why are evergreens spaced in with the deciduous so important?
Well, everybody likes to see green in the winter, and if we don't have them, we won't. And some of them have edibles as well. This one is a palmetto, so it doesn't, but it's still nice to have the green around you.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
It's soothing and calming.
Yeah, and it's really good. We see this one again here as far as the tangerine. But why the tangerine? You don't really think of that. I mean, you're in essence, a tropical belt. But looking at the fruit of the tangerine, why is that important?
Well, we all the citruses, most of them will grow in light shade, and it's real nice to have them because there's been a lot of citrus greening going on,
Mm-hmm.
and we want to keep all our citrus trees. And I do have a way to basically save their lives,
Mm-hmm.
and I have done that quite a few times.
Mm-hmm. Now, looking at this particular tree here, this is looks like something that's growing out into the wild, but it's in an urban area. Why is it so important?
This is a moringa tree. It's from Africa, and they call it the miracle tree or the tree of life. And it's got all kinds of antioxidants, anti-inflammatories, vitamins, minerals. It's one of the plants that people can take who want to get healthier.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a really, really wonderful plant.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and this is something we need to think more about. Is heal thyself is another one of those old ancient axioms that we have to think about. We talked about food is medicine, but heal thyself really is important as far as using all natural herbs and plants, flowers. Now, looking at this arrangement here, where it's growing in full sun, this is part of the decor. Why have this different type of mix? Because we see a very dense, almost forest in the background, very dark, probably very cool. But then right out in bright sunshine, you have this plant. What is it doing and why is it important? Counterbalance to those that are more in the shade or being a recluse.
Well, this is a Meyer lemon, and it's only going to get at the most 8 foot tall and 8 foot wide. but it's very, very, very productive. So you can see this is a walkway going into the house, so you can come out and very easily pick lemons when you want to eat them.
Mm-hmm. What a great way of having it. But you know, people think we have to have huge tracts of land to have our own little forest. But what you're showing here is that you can be in a built environment and still have your own little forest.
Yeah, there's lots of little fruit trees there, and they will grow up and they'll produce a lot of food.
Hmm. And this
Yeah.
is something that goes on for decades too, right, Jay?
Yes.
Hmm. Now, why we have to think about this, I'm going to leave this up for just a minute. Why do we need to think about next generations as far as planting trees are concerned and having your own orchard?
Well, I grew up in Michigan and we had orchards all around us, all kinds, and we also had our own fruit trees.
Mhm.
And there's nothing better than going out and picking fresh peaches off the tree, or cherries off the tree, or grapes off the vines. And, to be able to eat the most nutrient dense, safe, because you're not going to put poisons on them, and so you're just going to be healthier and happier, and it's a wonderful thing for neighbors and kids and grandkids to
Mhm.
learn how to do this. And you've eaten a lot of things off your trees, right?
Mhm. Oh yeah, we had an acre garden right beside my house. Plus, we had our own orchard right
Yeah,
next to the house.
yeah, so nothing's better than that.
Yeah, yeah. You go out and you pull your own. Let's just go through some of these photographs. Tell us what we're looking at, and again, why important.
Okay, these pink flowers are peaches. You can see the little peaches growing on them too. And peaches, that's like probably my favorite fruit. I just love peaches.
Mhm.
So that's why I put that one in. And these are tangerines. And
Now, going back to the dense foliage, we're looking at this very thin branches, light leaves, but then we get over to the tangerine, and these are very dense leaves, very thick. And both of these are actually pulling carbon out of the air. So what you have here is not only do you have, the fruit, but also you really have a carbon sump. Why is a carbon sump so important in urban areas?
well, carbon dioxide is not good for us, but it's good for plants. So it's a win win situation. That purifies the soil, purifies the air, and it helps them grow and produce food. That's pretty
Hmm.
cool.
Hmm. Yeah, and this is really a beautiful photograph. What are we looking at here?
These are the Meyer lemons.
Hmm.
They're nice big lemons and they're very productive and they're very delicious.
Hmm. Now, looking at these older trees, we've been looking at a lot of new trees, but this is what we're looking forward to is to have these old growth trees and allow them to be with us for the future. So, as far as organic living, let's go out on this question. What do you see for the growth and development of organic living, not just with you, but organic living across the globe over the next 5, 10, or 15 years? And we got about 20 seconds to do that.
Well, people are really waking up to like the diseases we looked at earlier and the need for good, healthy food. And so I think it's going to be huge. People are going to be growing their food and getting healthier and happier.
Well, and this really is the true next green revolution, and also it's green living. This is Jay McFall, President and Master Gardener, Organic Living. Thank you for being with us as we look around the globe to create the Emerald Planet.